Everyone thought this time was different. They were wrong, and the world paid the price. For a few years, everything looked perfect. Jobs were everywhere. Money was easy. People were getting rich faster than ever before. It felt like the future had finally arrived. But underneath all that success, something was quietly breaking. And when it snapped, it didn't just hurt one country. It sent shockwaves across the entire world. So how did a booming economy turn into a financial disaster? And why do economists still warn that it could happen again? Let's rewind. After a major global conflict ended, countries were desperate to rebuild. Factories restarted, trade picked up. New technology made production faster and cheaper than ever before. Businesses expanded rapidly. Banks were eager to lend. And regular people suddenly had access to money they'd never had before. Loans were easy, credit was everywhere, and the message was simple. If you're not investing, you're falling behind. So people borrowed, and borrowed more. They bought homes, they bought stocks, they bought assets they didn't fully understand, using money they didn't actually have. And as prices rose, confidence exploded, because when prices only go up, risk feels invisible. Soon, optimism turned into obsession. News headlines celebrated record highs. Friends bragged about profits. Even people who had never invested before were jumping in, not because they understood the market, but because everyone else was making money. And that's when the warning signs appeared. Production slowed. Demand began to weaken, but prices kept climbing anyway. Why? Because belief had replaced reality. People stopped asking, "Is this worth it?" and started saying, "It'll go up forever." And historically, that sentence never ends well. The system was fragile. Banks had loaned out too much money. Companies were overextended, and households were drowning in debt. All it needed was a spark. And then, it happened. A sudden drop. Panic selling. What started as a correction turned into chaos. Investors rushed to exit at the same time. Banks couldn't cover losses, and fear spread faster than any virus ever could. People lined up to withdraw their savings, but the money wasn't there, because it had already been lent out, invested, and lost. The collapse didn't stay contained. Businesses shut down. Unemployment surged. Global trade slowed to a crawl. Countries tried to protect themselves, raising tariffs, cutting imports, isolating their economies. But that only made things worse. Instead of stopping the damage, it spread the pain across borders. What began as optimism turned into desperation. And millions of people who did everything right lost their jobs, their homes, and their savings. Eventually, governments stepped in, banks were restructured, regulations were introduced. Safety nets were built to prevent it from happening again. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The real cause wasn't numbers on a chart. It was human behavior, greed, fear, overconfidence, and the belief that risk had somehow disappeared. Every major financial crisis shares the same pattern: easy money, blind optimism, and the refusal to believe that things can go wrong. And that's the lesson. Markets change, technology evolves, but human psychology stays exactly the same. When everyone believes there's no downside, that's usually when the downside is closest. Because bubbles don't pop when people are scared. They pop when people are convinced nothing can go wrong.